Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that an individual who appears to have used violent means and fear to further his or his organization's political goals should receive a fair trial with a jury and a judge in the country of his offense within a civilian court, which is one where citizens of the place of the offense would be tried if they are suspected of having committed a violent crime. In order to present this case, I will talk about the nature of civilian courts versus the nature of military courts, and how terrorists are not part of the military. Afterwards, my teammate Aurea will talk about the effects of trying terrorists in civilian courts. I want to remind you, opposition side, that this does not mean that the punishment received by the suspect terrorist, if guilty, would change from the current status quo. Now, moving on to my first argument, the nature of the civilian court versus the nature of the military court. Ladies and gentlemen, military courts are outdated and unethical. There is no way that they are the best way of achieving justice, ladies and gentlemen, because their nature itself is unjust. Their nature itself is one that does not seek justice, but rather just to punish someone through a nefarious mechanism. When you walk into a military court as a suspect, you're already presumed to be guilty, ladies and gentlemen. This is how biased these courts are. That there is a presumption of your no thank you, sir. That you are in no way going to prove your innocence, because for them, no thank you, sir. You're already guilty. They're just a soft mechanism before punishing you. One, bereft of jurisdictional value, because their whole point is to prove that you are guilty, as they already think you are, not to prove your innocence, ladies and gentlemen. This, we believe, is unethical and should have no place in our judicial system. Yes, sir.
But ultimately, what we are doing is evaluating the information that
Thank
we
you,
have.
sir. Well, I really don't think the military courts are the best at assessing this information. If they were really the best at assessing this information, then tell me, why is there no prosecutorial disclosure of classified evidence? Because they just treat these as mechanisms before telling someone that they're guilty. Because they give no value to evidence, they give no value to interviews, they give no value of what a jury would think. Thank you, sir. Of whether a jury would think that they are guilty or not, ladies and gentlemen. These military courts are not there to evaluate the suspect. They're just there to justify them giving him a punishment, ladies and gentlemen. You also have no right to face your accuser in the military court, ladies and gentlemen. What does this tell us? That they are not even giving them the most basic of rights within the court to the suspect. They are not even properly telling them why they have done something wrong and what they need to do in order to prove that they did not do it. Because how can we actually tell someone that they are guilty when they are not even able to face their accuser, ladies and gentlemen? No, thank you, sir. When they're not even able to face their accuser. Let us remember the Tipton three British people who were tried in a military court and were found to be members of Al-Qaeda. Why were they found to be members of Al-Qaeda even if they were civilian British people, ladies and gentlemen? Because military courts are just there to give them a base, to consolidate the guilt of these people, not to tell them if they are innocent or not, ladies and gentlemen. It was not until several years ago that the Tipton Three were finally released from Guantanamo Bay, where they were forced to endure, no thank you, sir, where they were forced to endure torture. All because they were tried in the military court, because they were not given the right to get a proper defense in the civilian court, ladies and gentlemen. And also, given that every single member of the military court is a member of the military, ladies and gentlemen, it is a more aggressive court. You are the enemy, ladies and gentlemen. You are the enemy, and therefore we must bring you down. No, thank you, sir. We must bring you down. We must bring you down. We must bring you down, and that's all we have to do. No, thank you, sir. There is no way you're going to end up being innocent because you are the enemy. Ladies and gentlemen, this does not happen in civilian courts, which actually offers a fair way of judging people with a jury, with a judge, and no, thank you, sir, and not just a stop mechanism to say that we are actually being fair. No, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, sir.
Yes, we need a more aggressive system because these people are attacking our country.
Thank you, sir. Yes, and that is exactly why the consequences of their act will not be changed. Just the way in which they are tried, in order to not have another Tipton Three in our hands, in order to not have people tortured because they were tried in an unfair way, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't the judicial system just this? Isn't the judicial system's purpose to find the guilty and differentiate the innocent? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is not possible in a military court. Now, moving on to my second argument, how terrorists are not part of the military. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have told you that military courts are definitely outdated and unethical, and they should have no place in our judicial system. We agree that when it comes to soldiers, as unfair as it may be, they have a tacit agreement with the military, telling them that by joining them, they are willing to be tried in military courts when doing things related to the military. This is something the terrorists have not signed up for, ladies and gentlemen. No, sir. They have not sought, they don't have this contract with the military, and therefore they should be no different to people tried for other violent crimes who are not part of the military, ladies and gentlemen. Terrorists are not part of a country's military. No, thank you, sir. They're not part of the country's military. No, thank you, sir. And therefore they should not be tried as such. But most importantly, we should not be judging them in a military court for the very basis of terrorism, ladies and gentlemen, because doing so, we are agreeing that they are part of a military group. We are agreeing that they are military, and therefore we are legitimizing their cause. We're legitimizing terrorism, which in a way... No, thank you, sir. In a way, it's not legitimizing terrorism. One of the main causes of terrorism, one of the goals of terrorism, isn't the fact that we're judging them in military courts a way of fulfilling this goal, a way of telling them, oh, you're a terrorist. You are as legitimate as the United States government. Al-Qaeda, no, thank you, sir. By judging a member of Al-Qaeda in a military court, we're saying to them, we're judging you in the same court as we would judge a member of the French army. Therefore, the French army and Al-Qaeda are equivalent. No, thank you, sir. Do we really want this to happen? Do we really want a system of justice in which we are legitimizing terrorism, in which we are saying that terrorists are the same as an army, ladies and gentlemen, in which we are agreeing to their cause? Agreeing to their cause in the same way that we are agreeing that the military of a country have the right to fulfill their political goals, ladies and gentlemen. By judging them in military courts, we're accepting that it is legitimate to kill people for the sake of a terrorist group, ladies and gentlemen. It is for these reasons, because the nature of the military court is outdated, it's unethical, it's not the best way to bring forth justice. And because terrorists have absolutely no place in the military court, because they don't have a tacit agreement, and most importantly, because by doing so, we'll be agreeing that their cause is legitimate, that proposition side begs this House to propose this motion for the sake of justice.